There are all kinds of things people blame for the downfall of society: greed, power, corruption. But there's one thing we rarely talk about, even though it's everywhere: lying. And not just from politicians or corporations, I'm talking about regular people. You, me, everyone. Herodotus said something about this. The most disgraceful thing in the world, the Persians think, is to tell a lie. The next worst, to owe a debt, because the debtor is obliged to tell lies. Think about it. You've been lied to more times than you can probably remember. And if you're being honest, you've lied too. People lie more often than they realize. But there lies some very important questions. Are your lies small, harmless? Or are you the kind of person whose lies actually hurt people, even ruin lives? This video is about that. Why people lie, why we don't notice the lies we tell ourselves, and maybe more importantly, how to spot a liar before they do any damage. So let's discuss it. Lying is not just a flaw, it's a deeply rooted human behavior, shaped by our psychology, our fears, and the world we live in. Some lies are necessary. In fact, lying has, in many ways, become our social glue. We lie to protect feelings, avoid conflict, or keep relationships intact. Philosophers have long wrestled with the morality of lying. For Immanuel Kant, lying is always morally wrong, no matter the circumstances. For him, truth-telling is a categorical imperative, a duty we must follow regardless of outcomes. This is the heart of moral absolutism, the belief that certain actions are right or wrong in all situations, no exceptions. But not all thinkers agree. On the other hand, contextualism sees morality as fluid, dependent on circumstances. This fits the philosophy of Nietzsche and Machiavelli. To them, morality is a human invention, malleable and strategic. If a lie leads to a better outcome or protects something of value, it may be not only acceptable but necessary. From this perspective, the morality of lying depends on context, on motive, consequence, and survival. Anyways, that is a broad term to explain lying, but in our daily lives it seems far more complex. Children tend to lie out of fear, usually to avoid punishment. Their sense of right and wrong is often rigid, shaped by authority figures. They operate in a moral world of black and white. Lies are bad, truth is good. But when telling the truth means getting in trouble, the rules suddenly bend. Lying becomes a coping strategy. Teenagers, on the other hand, start lying not just to avoid consequences, but to gain acceptance. By the time we reach university age, lying often evolves again, this time into a social and emotional survival tool. It's less about punishment and more about connection. Students may lie to protect someone's feelings, to preserve a fragile relationship, or to maintain a certain image. At this point, lying becomes deeply entwined with how we function in society. If a lie spares you pain or earns you praise, you're more likely to repeat it. Over time, lying becomes habitual. It becomes unconscious, automatic. And underneath all of this lies something even deeper. From a psychoanalytic view, Freud described how our ego often lies to protect us from the anxiety of reality. The id seeks pleasure. The superego demands perfection, and the ego is stuck in the middle, negotiating an unbearable world. So it lies. It bends truth to maintain internal peace. Carl Jung adds to this with his concept of the persona, the mask we show the world. We lie not just to others, but to ourselves. This is where it gets dangerous. We stop asking the hard questions. We stop digging, because to do so might shatter the illusion we depend on, the lie we've come to need. Maslow's hierarchy of needs sheds even more light here. At the base, we lie for safety, food, shelter, protection, then for love, belonging, and esteem. As our psychological needs grow more complex, so does our relationship with truth. Lying becomes a way of defending the things we value most: our relationships, our self-image, our place in the world. But that's not where it ends. Some lies are casual, some are protective, but some are predatory. Pathological liars twist truth not just for survival, but out of habit, or even for pleasure. These individuals may manipulate, deceive, and destroy without guilt and without warning. They lie with intention, and they lie well. These are the lies that leave damage in their wake. Broken trust, broken families, broken lives. And unless you know what to look for, you may never see them coming. That's why in the next part, we'll break down the language of a liar, how they speak, what they hide, and the subtle clues that give them away. Because spotting a lie, especially the ones designed to hurt, might just save you more than you realize. From a neuropsychological perspective, truth and lies are not just moral opposites. They're neurologically distinct. And not all lies are even intentional. This is something that surprised me when I first read about it. Psychiatry recognizes something called pathological lying, a compulsive behavior first described back in 1891 by Anton Delbruck. People with this condition might lie knowingly, or even believe their own falsehoods. In some cases, disorders like paranoid personality disorder or dissociative disorders can cause unintentional deception. It's not always as clear-cut as we'd like to think. Despite our fascination with catching liars, especially in the age of clickbait and true crime, humans are actually pretty bad at it. A massive review of studies found our lie detection accuracy hovers around 54%. That's barely better than flipping a coin. Even polygraphs, the classic lie detector tool, remain controversial. They measure indirect stress signals, not lies themselves. And while brain scans show promise, they haven't reached a level of certainty that can stand in a courtroom. So, how can we actually get better at spotting lies? One intriguing approach is indirect detection. A 2009 study by Hart, Fillmore, and Griffith asked students to watch videos of people lying and telling the truth. But here's the twist. They weren't asked to spot the liar, just to observe behavior. Strangely enough, this passive method led to better accuracy. It suggests that when we stop trying to hunt the lie and simply observe with an open mind, we pick up on more subtle cues. Sometimes it's our overthinking that gets in the way. Researchers have also studied verbal cues, things like awkward pauses, hesitation, a shift in vocal pitch, shorter responses, or delayed replies. Liars tend to offer fewer details, may contradict themselves, or correct themselves on the fly. These are small tells, but again, none of them are perfect indicators. Now, nonverbal behavior adds another layer, but it's also a minefield. There are three major theories trying to explain this. Emotional arousal hypothesis. Lying induces stress, which can show up as nervous gestures. Cognitive load. Lying takes mental effort, making it harder to appear relaxed. Behavioral control hypothesis. Liars may overcompensate to avoid suspicion, which makes them look stiff or unnatural. But here's the problem. Pop culture has infected us with myths, like liars always avoid eye contact, or they fidget more. Studies by Akahurst, Vrij, and others found no consistent behaviors across liars. These assumptions come from our own cognitive biases, like confirmation bias or the representativeness heuristic, and they often lead us astray. Psychologist Jeff Beatty, a specialist in nonverbal communication, emphasizes that body language can reveal contradictions between what someone says and what they actually feel. For example, when someone lies, they might gesture less, or their gestures might contradict their words. It's not about finding a gotcha moment. It's about noticing subtle dissonance. Interestingly, body movements are less consciously controlled than speech. In one study, liars showed mismatches between their facial expressions and their words, like a smile that doesn't quite reach the eyes. In Ten Brinka's research on real-life pleas from people whose loved ones were missing, these micro-expressions, fleeting glimpses of genuine emotion, betrayed the liars. And yet, social media keeps pushing nonsense like, Scratching your nose means you're lying. Vincent Deneau, an expert in deception detection, warns us, there's no universal gesture that reveals a lie. Behavior is contextual, cultural, and deeply individual. That's a message I think we really need to internalize, especially now, when everyone's so quick to judge based on a soundbite or TikTok body language tip. Even the popular advice to establish a baseline by asking neutral questions doesn't hold up. Answering, "What's your name?" is nothing like answering, "Did you take the money?" The stakes are different. The stress is different. The entire context shifts. So here's the bottom line. Lie detection is messy. Body language, speech patterns, micro-expressions, they can offer clues, but there's no single tell that gives it away. The most reliable approach? Watch for inconsistencies, subtle emotional slips, and changes in baseline behavior over time. But even then, tread carefully. As Beatty puts it so well, you're focusing on getting the speech right, and the gestural movement, which is unconscious, is still communicating the actual state of affairs. Now we know how to spot the liar among us, but what if we're the one? What if it's you who's starting to bend the truth? That's how it spreads, from one person to the next, until it becomes embedded in the culture around us. To avoid slipping into that trap, steer clear of unnecessary confrontation. Encourage mutual support. Set respectful boundaries before things spiral into chaos. Acknowledge your mistakes without self-loathing. Look into your shadow, face it, and be honest about where you fall short. Don't live in illusion or chase comfort at the expense of truth. And most importantly, question everything. Especially now, in an age drowning in data and misinformation. Try to get comfortable with honesty in this life full of sufferings. Or as that German philosopher with the iconic mustache once said, to live is to suffer, to survive is to find some meaning in the suffering.